What if it works? What if Klay Thompson is great, Derek Lively takes a leap, but they still come up short? What do they do then? I'll tell you on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Amazing.
Your team every day.
Still can't eat milk.
And welcome. You are Locked On to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. The best way you can help us grow this show is to listen every day on any podcast platform. Leave a 5-star review. Take us with you. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, CastBox, all those kind of platforms. Love that. Also, you can like us on YouTube. Comment on the video. Let us know what you think would happen if it works. Klay's great. Lively takes a leap. What do the Mavs do? How far do they go? Let us know there. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use that code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Today, I'm answering your questions. Everybody on the Mavs Insiders group shared questions. I asked everybody to text me in questions. You texted a bunch of great questions, so shout out to you guys for texting great questions. And I'm going to answer some of them, because I think some of them ask some questions that we haven't really gotten to yet, including, how do you distinguish between best player and important player? Got something with that. What made the Mavs mentally click, or what made their mentality click last year? I thought that was a good question. We'll get to that. But I also have a couple questions about, what happens if things go wrong for the Mavericks? When do Nico Harrison and Jason Kidd make a pivot? And what would have to happen for basically Klay Thompson to be Grant Williams 2.0? It's a tough one. But let's start here. Let's start with this question that I found really interesting. We're doing like a what if it goes right, what if it goes wrong? But this one, the question was, if Klay plays well and Lively takes a leap, would we still come up short? What would we need to add? Good question coming in about the Dallas Mavericks here. So the big questions about the Dallas Mavericks is, will Klay fit? Will he be at the best spot in the starting lineup? Will it replace what Derek Jones Jr. left with his defense? Will the offense be good enough to take the Mavericks to another level? Because it's not just replacing Derek Jones Jr. The Mavs also need to take another step forward. They came up real short against the Boston Celtics. And yes, it's going to be hard to try and match them. But that's the whole point, right? Is to win a title, to get to the next step. We talked about all last week with Reggie and with Dana. Is it finals or bust for the Dallas Mavericks, right? And a lot of you think that it's finals or bust. Dana Larson said it was finals or bust for this Dallas Mavericks team. And so now you're like, okay, well, how do they take that step to go, all right, we got to take one step further. We got to take another step forward. But what if... So for that to happen, I think Klay does have to play well, like this question says, and Lively would have to take a leap, like we talked about with Dana on Friday. Klay playing well looks like this. He fits well into the defense. The defense can still be good. Maybe a top 10 defense with Lively, PJ Washington, Klay Thompson, Luka, Kyrie. You've got Najee Marshall in the mix, Quentin Grimes in the mix. You've got, Maxey playing defense well, Daniel Gafford playing defense well off the bench. You've got it covered. Dinwiddie plays his role in a good spot. Like that 10 works really well and can be a top 10 defense. That's how it works well. And that's with everything running on all cylinders. Lively taking a leap forward. He adds a little bit. Maybe he stretches the floor. Maybe he just is better at all the things that he said. He's better rebounding, better defending the rim, better switching, and that's why the Mavs defense works a little better. There's all kinds of ways this could go right, which is awesome and exciting. But what if they come up short again? They might. That Boston Celtics team is still very good. And we don't know if Kyrie has exercised his demons against them yet. Right? That was one of the reasons why they lost. We know that Boston Celtics team is still pretty much the same team. They've got a bunch of answers to a bunch of things. They've got a bunch of guys that can defend and play offense at the same time. They don't have the same kind of questions the Mavs do. They're not inserting a player in the starting lineup going, man, I hope that guy can defend still. It's like, wow, did we just have the two best defenders on the Olympic team in Drew Holiday and Derek White? Wow, do we have a superstar in Jason Tatum, or a star in Jason Tatum that just got benched and is probably going to be motivated this season to prove that he shouldn't have been benched in the Olympics? Do we have a star player in Jason Tatum that actually didn't play that well during the finals and is going to be motivated to prove that he can't? Did we just have Jaylen Brown be our best player? Wow. Do we have Kristaps Porzingis that could still be healthy and he wasn't healthy during? There's so many things with them Their team is just very good. They won 64 games last year. Their over-under is 58.5 for wins that they should win this year. It is hard to like fill that gap. To bridge that gap for the Dallas Mavericks, it could be hard next season. Not even considering the Thunder got better. They were a 57-win team last year. The Minnesota Timberwolves may get better with a step forward from Anthony Edwards. They were a 56-win team last year. The Denver Nuggets are still going to be hanging around, and the Mavs didn't have to face them last year. With or without KCP, that could be a hard out for the Mavericks. And so, okay, let's say it does work. The Mavericks are running on all cylinders. We're like, all right, this team internally is great. We don't know how they compare externally to some of the other teams and how they match up against other teams, but we know that internally, this team is doing what they're supposed to do. Mavs fans have very little complaints for Jason Kidd. They have no complaints about the rotations, and we're all going, okay, this is all going really well. This is all going great. That never happens. That will never, ever, ever happen. Let me tell you. The Boston Celtics fans had lots of complaints about a 64-win team. It will never, ever happen for all of us to be all in the same voice at the same time being like, I have no complaints. Everything's fine. And just like Kyrie, be like, you know what?
It's great. It's great, dude. Dude, it's great. It's great. It's great, broski. Bro, name it. It's great. It's great. It's great, bro. It's great. It's great. It's great. This life's great, bro. I have no complaints. I don't.
There will never not be any complaints. But let's just say that we all agree that they are playing to what we think that they can play to. They're playing at a huge level. If it doesn't work again, they come up short against, say, the Thunder in the West or the Timberwolves or even the Celtics in the finals. I don't know who could get out of the East. I'm only going to give the Celtics as an example because I don't think anybody else got close to them. To me, that says three things. That means the one more score didn't work. Klay added something, but it wasn't enough to take their offense from, all right, Luka and Kyrie doing a bunch of stuff, to, all right, now we're a diversified offense. That didn't work enough. They still need another real ball handler. If it doesn't work, then I think that they missed out because, all right, we still need one more ball handler. That Klay Thompson role or whoever's coming off the bench has to be a ball handler, and that maybe Dinwiddie didn't work and didn't fill that role. Maybe it's the Dinwiddie of the playoffs with the Lakers. And all of a sudden you go, man, it would have been so great. Like, I can imagine us going, this team is playing so well. They're trying really hard. We can see they're all playing, but man, that Dinwiddie thing didn't work. The Exum thing didn't work. The Jaden Hardy didn't take a step forward. And now all of a sudden you're like, they could just use another ball handler. I think the offense is where there's going to be more of an issue to me. Because I think there's pivots that they can make defensively. You can pivot to Najee Marshall. You can pivot to Quentin Grimes. You can pivot to big man lineups with Maxey. But the offense was the one that was an issue. And if it all seems to be working, but it doesn't work in the end, then the offense wasn't good enough. The third thing to me is the point of attack defender. I do think that this team needed to upgrade their point of attack defense. All through the playoffs, we saw that. And through all through the playoffs and the end of the season, even though they had one of the best defenses in the NBA to end the season. We looked at them and said, all right, they could still use an upgrade here. And it was a point of attack defense, the guy that defends the guards and the players with the ball in their hands. And the Mavs lost their guy in Derrick Jones Jr., and they still needed to upgrade from that spot last year. Let's not pretend like that wasn't a conversation we were having all through the playoffs. Man, as soon as they get out of this playoffs, whenever they get knocked out of this playoffs or they win the finals or whatever, they've got to improve their point of attack. We were saying that in the playoffs. And so I think if it all seems to be coming together, but it still doesn't work, that's the area. So the end of this question was, what would they need to add? They would need to figure out a way to add another talent that can handle the ball and score. And a point of attack defender. A really great point of attack defender. A KCP, a Derek White, a Drew Holiday, a OG Anunoby, an elite player like that. Because covering up for Luka and Kyrie, scheme can only do so much. That's one of the reasons why I'm concerned about them in the regular season. You've got to really muster up a bunch and really play well and really be focused and locked in. And that's why Jason Kidd's defense works so well at these end of the season stretch going into the playoffs. 2022, end of the season stretch going into the playoffs. They're like, all right, now we're locked in. We made this trade. Now the chemistry is better with Dinwiddie coming in. Now let's all lock in. Let's be better. Let's make the Western Conference Finals. But 2023, the team goes, all right, we're not really competing for much right now. It's tough, and they don't lock in. They actually do the opposite. They lock out. some players on the team locked out and we're like, you know what? If he's not defending, I'm not defending. And then the defense completely fell apart. Talent absolutely had something to do with it. But you just saw, if you watched with your eyes, you saw that the defense fell apart. So those are the three things. If everything looks like it's going on all cylinders, but they still come up short, then they didn't have enough scoring. The one more score didn't work. Klay Thompson wasn't enough scoring added to the team. They still need another ball handler. I think that would be a problem. And then the point of attack defense could improve. Absolutely. Coming up, how bad would it have to go for Nico Harrison or Jason Kidd to pivot from Klay Thompson or someone else to start the season? I'm interested to see what you guys think about this one. Coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, get an account, and you can go see all kinds of stuff with Game Time. I use it all the time. I've used it for concerts. I used it for comedy. There you go. Looking at all kinds of stuff. New Orleans Saints at Dallas Cowboys on Sunday. Oh, you can't even, this has already happened. There's a Future and Metro Boomin concert at the American Airlines Center next Saturday, $92, the lowest ticket. So you can do that. All kinds of great stuff you can get on Game Time. And what I love about Game Time is they have the last minute ticket priority. So you know that, let's say that Metro Boomin concert is $92 right now. By the day of that concert, the hour before that concert, it's going to be less than that. So check Game Time, check it all the time. Use all the features that they have. Go to Game Time, use that code LOCKEDONNBA, create an account, use that code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off. Again, use that code LOCKEDONNBA at Game Time. Check it out today.
Dallas is going to get a seat at the table.
Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. Appreciate each and every one of you for checking out the show. Go and listen to Locked On NBA. Back on Thursday, Pat and I hosted the show on Locked On NBA. We talked about all kinds of great stuff. I haven't recorded that one yet. So go listen to Locked On NBA. Make that your second listen today. All right. Answering your questions. I talked about what if it goes well with Klay and Lively and the Mavs still come up short. It's possible. Team is not perfect. This is not the Boston Celtics level talented team yet. As much as we're feeling very great about this Mavericks team, there are still ways that it could go wrong. So we talked about that. Let's get into the next question. The next question I found was interesting. My question is, how much would have to go wrong for Nico to make another / different move? To me, this question says, and then the question went on, there was a little bit about Klay Thompson. To me, this question basically says, if I'm reading through the lines, and text me on the Locked On Mavs Insiders line if you if you disagree. To me, this is saying, how bad would it have to be for Klay Thompson to be Grant Williams 2.0? Because remember last year with Grant Williams, end of 2023, Mavs missed the postseason, and then they make the move for Grant Williams. Like, all right, here's a guy that's played in the playoffs, hit 7 threes in a game 7, incredible. And they bring him in. Tim Cato does the end of the season survey for The Athletic, where Mavs fans answer, who do you believe could play in a playoff series right now? It's Luka, Kyrie, and the number 3 player on that list, voted on by you, the Mavs fans, Grant Williams. Outside of your 2 superstars, he was the player that Mavs fans had the most confidence in that could play in a playoff series. He was supposed to be that guy. He was supposed to be a piece that they could kind of build with. Luka and Kyrie are the foundation, but he was a piece that you could take and build something with. And then the beginning of the season, he was shooting the lights out of that ball. He was shooting incredible. I remember sitting in the media room. Grant Williams was shooting something like 66% to start the season. And we were all going, man, like this guy is insane. Like all he needed was Luka Doncic's passing, and all of a sudden it's just working super, super well for him. And then we asked him about it, and he goes, not good enough. I want to hit every single one of them. You go, okay, Grant Williams, sure. And then he proceeded to like shoot awfully the rest of the season. Yeah, 6 games in, he was shooting 56%. He shot okay the rest of the games, but then you go to, he shot okay for a couple more games after that. But after the first 6 games, he shot 33% from 3, and it even got worse. And it did never work out defensively and all that stuff. And then Nico Harrison realized that there was some chemistry issues, realized that the fit on the court wasn't really working as well as they had hoped, and he made the pivot. And he traded him to Charlotte. He brought in PJ Washington. He brought in Daniel Gafford, and that worked a lot better. So with Klay Thompson, how would it have to go that bad? Well, one, I think we all know the big question for Klay has been the defense. Can his defense still be good enough, just good enough, to defend with that starting unit, to find a place in the defense? With that starting unit especially, he's going to have to defend some of the best guards on the other team. Because you're not going to ask Luka to do it, you're not going to ask Kyrie to do it, and PJ Washington will probably be busy. I know we want PJ Washington to defend the best guy on the other team, but what if it's Dame and Giannis? What if it's LeBron and AD? Okay, who are you putting on which guy, right? What if it's Sabonis and Fox, or Fox and DeMar DeRozan? You got to make choices there. Klay's still going to have to defend some of the best players and defend all-star players. Maybe not the best guy, but all-star players. And so that doesn't work. And all of a sudden you go, man, his defense is not only not good, is not only like not solid anymore, it's bad. And you cannot play him in tough situations, in crunch time situations. That would be one reason why it would go bad. But I think the only way that it goes bad enough for Nico Harrison to pivot, and one of the things that got Grant Williams, was the chemistry. Chemistry on this team is very important. What was so great about 2022? Their chemistry. What was so great about this past season? The Mavs' chemistry was great. Everybody knew their role. Everybody fit in. If Nico Harrison can sniff and whiff any kind of chemistry issue with Klay Thompson, they bring him in. Kid and everybody hype him up and are like, man, we got one of the greatest shooters in NBA history. He's coming in. Shams Charania reports that he's going to start and play 30 minutes. And all of a sudden the Mavs realize, holy crap, we cannot play him 30 minutes. And Jason Kidd decides to pivot in some way. And Klay Thompson is doing all the stuff he did last year. Pouting and, kicking chairs or whatever, or getting mad. And by all reports, he got mad at himself. And it was not like a lash out at other people kind of thing. And he kept it to himself, but it still spread to the other teams. You've ever been around somebody that's mad at themselves? You're playing a game. I used to be this guy. Oh my God. When I would play a game and you're not playing as well as you'd hoped you would, or you're messing up in ways, you're like, why am I messing up? The Michael Scott thing where he's playing basketball in season 1 of The Office. He misses a shot and everyone's like, he should not make that shot. And Michael goes, what is wrong with me today? I usually hit those. And you just get mad and frustrated. And then everybody around you, it starts to spread to everybody else. Right? If that's what's happening with Klay Thompson, that's when Nico Harrison makes the move. That's when Nico Harrison pivots to me. I think on the court, I think you can make it work. I think you can find ways. I think you can move guys around. I think that Jason Kidd has found a way to massage egos and figure out a way to show guys, hey, we've got to put you in this role instead. But if there's a chemistry issue with Klay Thompson, that's when I think Nico Harrison would make some kind of move and a pivot the same way he did with Grant Williams. Now, another question I got in a similar vein to this is, do you think Jason Kidd can get Klay Thompson to buy in so he can have a spot off the bench? Let's say it gets to that point where you go, oh my God, this guy Quentin Grimes, why did the Pistons trade him? He's been awesome. I can see who the Knicks started all those games, and his defense is game changing, and and his shooting is, it's not the same as Klay Thompson. Maybe it's like 75% of Klay Thompson, 80% of Klay Thompson shooting. He's knockdown shooter. Oh my gosh, this guy Quentin Grimes is so good. And then you're like, all right, we got to start him instead of Klay Thompson or Najee Marshall, whoever else. I do think Jason Kidd can get there. I think it's going to be hard. I think Jason Kidd has a very hard road ahead of him, and I think that he knows that he's got either a hard road or a very easy one. Let's be clear about that. I don't think it's always going to be hard.
I'm not playing. I'm watching, just like you guys.
Right. And maybe he'll just be watching this team work really well together. Everybody know their roles. Everybody works out. Everybody learns the defense. The team leads itself because now they have another leader in Klay Thompson. That's the way that everything goes great, and we're all excited about this season. Klay comes in and it works. He's another leader on the court. Him and Kyrie are leading the team, and you see Klay working with Grimes, and you see Kyrie working with Jaden Hardy, and you see Luka doing his thing and working with the bigs, and everything is just working in harmony and all that. And that's what we saw last year, really, when they made the trades, when everybody fit into their role and everybody figured out what they were supposed to do. It could be like that. But if it doesn't, then what happens? And that's where Jason Kidd's test is going to be. And at this point, I'm going to believe in him. Maybe I'm Charlie Brown and Lucy's got the football and I'm going to be, on my back, but I'm going to believe him. I'm going to believe that Jason Kidd can handle this situation. I'm going to believe that he can manage these egos. If something goes wrong, he can make a change. And Klay Thompson is going to respect Jason Kidd in his opinion and his direction, that he'll take that spot and come off the bench. Can't believe how confident I am in Jason Kidd right now. That's pretty nice, though, right? It's great to be confident in the head coach of the team that you like. Coming up, one of the questions I got was, how do you distinguish between the best player and the most important player? Is the ranking of those players for the Mavericks different? Top 3 best player, top 3 most important player. Talk about that and more coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook has all kinds of props and odds that you can use to get in on that action. Get that action. The Olympics are over, yeah, but they still have all kinds of stuff. You have NBA futures, so you can do the NBA win totals. I already talked about some of those a little bit on this episode, but you can also check out the WNBA. You can check out all kinds of things like that. They've got championship odds, Las Vegas Aces plus 155, New York Liberty plus 155. Those are the odds-on favorites, and they should be, to go win the WNBA championship. Check that out. They've got player awards on here. Asia Wilson minus 3,000 to be the MVP, and she should be. Caitlin Clark plus 8,000. That's kind of wild, actually. Caitlin Clark has the number 2 odds to win MVP. It's still plus 8,000, which is like wild odds. All kinds of great stuff on FanDuel. They got boost and bonus all the time throughout the offseason for the NBA, but also throughout all the other sports as they're going on. The NFL is starting. They have like actual preseason games are playing. That's wild. Go to FanDuel.com. See what's available to you. Again, FanDuel.com.
Still can't leave me open.
All right. I'm answering your questions. Talked about how things could go really great, but not really. Talked about if Nico Harrison and Jason Kidd would have to pivot, what would they have to do? Now let's get into a question. We recently had a big topic. Me and Slightly were talking about who's the 3rd best player in the Dallas Mavericks. And we both threw out the word best, and we both threw out the word important at different times. And I think that they're different at different times. So the question here comes in, and I think it's a good one. How do you distinguish the best player from the most important player? This has come up with Lively. I totally agree he's probably both of those things to the Mavericks. So this person that asked the question agrees that Lively is probably the 3rd best player and the 3rd most important player. I think I disagree. I hope Lively is the 3rd best player, but I do think he's a 3rd most important player. And I think Klay Thompson will be the 3rd best player. Because I think best is all about skill. And I think important is all about impact. The best players on your team sometimes don't have the most impact. How many people looked at Michael Beasley and were like, this guy is one of the best scorers that we've seen. And he can just come in. Jabari Parker can come in and score at any point. Christian Wood can come in. He's got skills. He can shoot. He's one of our best shooters on the team. One of the best talents on the team. But was he one of the most important players on the team? No. Dwight Powell is a perfect example of this for the Dallas Mavericks in a different way, the inverse way. At his best, when Dwight Powell was at his best in the NBA, he wasn't that skilled of an NBA player compared to some of the best skilled players in the world. But he did make an impact. The lineups were positive for Dwight Powell. He came in and made an impact. He did his thing. He set great screens. He rolled to the basket hard. He got lobs. He defended his butt off. He was an impact player and an important player for the Dallas Mavericks at times, at his best. I'm not even talking about last year or even the year before that. But he was not one of the most skilled players. So you're not ever going to say Dwight Powell was one of the 3 best players, but he was one of the most important players because if he was gone, who do they replace him with, right? Moses Brown. Whoever else. So I think importance is also about who's behind you, right? At the beginning of last season, Derek Lively was the 3rd most important player and maybe the 2nd most important player for the Mavericks because if he missed time, who was playing instead of him? Maxey or Dwight? And Maxey missed a bunch of games. And so you're like, okay, he can't miss games. He's important. If Kyrie misses games, at least you still have Luka who can handle one game of all the offense. He can do that. Yeah, so that's the difference between best and most important. Another question that I got that I really liked was, what made the Mavs mentality click last season? D-Live being Lil Bro, team jumping on Kyrie's redemption tour, trades coming in at the perfect time for midseason energy boost. I think that a bunch of those things are right. And I do think it was the Mavs mentality that got them to the NBA Finals. Their talent, I think the talent did finally catch up to Luka. For a couple years there, it was Luka And then it was everybody else way down below them. Now it's like Luka, Kyrie, then a bunch of guys that are like impact, right? Skill, impact, best, important. And I think the talent finally caught up, so that allowed everybody to fall into their roles. Nico Harrison got the right players to come in. PJ Washington, come in, fill a role. Daniel Gafford, come in, fill a role. Draft Derek Lively, fill a role. Do exactly what you were drafted to do. The roles fell into place. The chemistry fell into place because of it. I think Jason Kidd should deserve credit for getting that chemistry there. I think Kyrie and Luka should deserve credit for getting that chemistry there. They weren't like the star players that were beefing or wanted more or, were angry and mean to all the role players, like, or disrespectful to the role players. There was love there. And I think that chemistry, everything kind of all fell into place. And I think that that's sort of how it worked. I also think that it's really nice to have a team where you've got one dude that is just one of the best in the NBA. At times, the best in the NBA. And you just go, all right, I think that I'm great. I'm an NBA player. There's only 450 of us. I'm one of the best 500 NBA players in the world, basketball players in the world. And I cannot even touch that guy in practice. And so then everyone just gets behind him and goes, hey, man, I don't care if you have the ball 40%, 50% of the time. You do your thing, and we're going to go far. And like something about grabbing Superman's cape and flying with him. And so I think there's something to do with that too, where everybody just falls into place. It's easy for guys to fall into place sometimes with the Mavericks because you go, all right, I know where I land here. I think Nuggets is the same way. Jokic, Jamal Murray's like, all right, I think I'm the best, but I can't touch that guy. Michael Porter Jr. could come in and be like, hey, I should have been the number one pick in the draft. I was the number one player in high school. I came in, got this, $30-40 million or whatever, but I can't touch that guy. 3-time MVP. They all fall into place. And so I think that mentality helped. You got to give credit to everybody. The leaders on the team, got to give credit to Jason Kidd, the coach, and all that. There's all kinds of good stuff there. There you go. That's me answering some of your questions. Subscribe to the Locked On Mavs Insiders. Great stuff. We're going to be doing a lot more with this during the season. During the season, I'll do a watch back where I'll watch back a quarter. So the best quarter was the fourth quarter or the best quarter was the third quarter. I'll watch that quarter back with you. And I'll pause the footage and like look at stuff and point out stuff, fun stuff, interesting stuff, things like that. I do that during the season. I also, anytime I see a rumor ever, I'll text it right to you, right to your phone. And so you'll see that. I was slow dripping the schedule. Every game that was like leaking, I was texting it to the Locked On Mavs Insiders. So subscribe to Locked On Mavs Insiders, 214-643-8637 to get more on that. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom!